In this video, we're going to show you how to create the 3D layout that you can see on the screen, along with the text that we have in the 2D view as well. The files for this have come from a website called designandmake.com. On the website, they provide themed selection of files that can be purchased and downloaded and then used within the software in order to create a huge number of variations to make different files for your customers. In this example, we're going to take one of the files from the website. We'll first show you how you can access it on the website itself. Then we're going to import the individual objects, going to change their size and position, and then we're going to adjust their heights so that we make sure the objects we want are in the foreground and the objects we want are in the background. Ultimately, we'll finish by creating the text you can see here and get the part ready for machining, which will be dealt with in another tutorial. Now let's go ahead and open a new copy to begin. Before we start work with the models in the software, let's take a quick look at the Design and Make website. If we open a web browser, we can type in www.designandmake.com. On the home page, we can see navigation to the different areas of the site. We can see a general description of the concept behind it, some of the new projects that have been added. And as we work our way down the page, you can see some of the work that's been done by customers with the models. There's also a place to subscribe here so that you can keep up to date when new additions are made to the project shop. If we come over and click on the link here, this will show us all the different projects that are available to purchase. If we just scroll down, you can see the choice there. Each of these is made up of a number of different models that can be imported into the software in order to create an infinite number of variations. Now if we come over and click on one of these, we can see what a typical project comprises. On the left, we've got an image showing one of the possible arrangements of these files, and on the right, the 5 different individual models that come with this particular download. If we come back to the project page, the one we're going to work with in the presentation here is called Wine Bar Number 1. Now let's imagine we've actually gone ahead and purchased this and downloaded it. In this case, we're actually going to give you these files for free. And what would we expect to see? Here you can see the 8 files that comprise the download. 6 of these are the 3D models that you can see from the previews. Got some licensing information there in the text file, and we also have this very useful project page that comes with each of our downloads. If we double click this and take a look, what this is used for is to give you an idea of the models that come with it, and also maybe some suggestions about how these can be blended together. Of course, there's an unlimited number of choices that you could make about how you actually do it, but this is just good to get the ball rolling. What we're going to aim for here is this one that says vintages on it, but along the way you're going to see us create a number of other different variations, all which we'd be able to machine if we wanted to. So now you've seen where we get the files on the website and the type of information that come with them. Let's go back into the software itself. We'll just minimize these and we'll create a new file to work on and start to import them in. If we click on the icon to create a new file, I'm going to make a job which is 24 inches wide, 12 inches high, 1 inch thick, XY datum in the center, and modeling resolution set to very high so we get a nice good quality 3D part. Let's click on OK once we've set those different values. If we come down to the Clip Art tab, you can see we've got our standard set of library folders that are added when you install the standard set of Clip Art that comes with the software. In addition, there's a folder called Wine Bar Number 1. To add this, I just clicked on the Add Folder button. I navigated through Windows until I found the appropriate folder where I downloaded that information, and then went ahead and hit OK, and it added that in there for me. Here I'm just going to hit Cancel so we don't add another folder there. And if we click on that, once it's been added, you can see the 6 models and the little preview image of those are shown to me, so that I can easily now start bringing those into my work area in order to create my layout. So we can clearly see what's happening, I'm going to tile the windows by going up to View and Tile Windows horizontally, so we have the 2D view at the top and the 3D view at the bottom. The first piece of clip art I'm going to load is the wine bottle. Now I could click and drag that into the 2D or 3D view, or if I know I want that to be in the center of my job, I can just come over and double click on it. And you can see now that that's been imported into the center of my job, and I can see the grayscale of that in the 2D view and an image of the 3D model in the 3D view there. At the moment this has already got the transform handles on it, so I could go ahead and scale this, rotate it, change its size, move it around, either in the 2D view or the 3D view, and we'll come to that in a moment with some of the other components. Now I'm just going to click in the background to deselect that, and it's worth pointing out that at this stage we could actually just go ahead and machine this model as is. Ideally we'd want to bring it into a more appropriately sized job if we were going to, but we could take this single file, any of these single objects within the project, and we could load those, size them and create a toolpath on them. In this case we could even create some text and project it down to machine it into the label of this bottle. So it's possible with any of these design and make and CNC projects in order to take any of the individual items and work with them, as well as creating the assemblies. Here though I do want to create something a bit more complex, so the next thing I want to do is bring the barrel top in. So I'm also going to double click on that so it brings it into the center. And what I'd like to do with that is just come over, and while these transform handles are highlighted, so the little squares you can see around it, I'm going to click over one of the corners. I'm going to hold shift down on the keyboard and I'm going to click and drag in order to resize that. So we'll just stretch that up a little there, and so I'm going to make it approximately 10 inches in size. You can see once we've rescaled it, if we look at the very bottom of the screen here, you can see the width and the height of the selected object. You can set that to be exactly 10 inches if you want by going to the drawing tab and using the set selected object size. If we click on that now, we could come in here and say that we want the height of this to be exactly 10, link XY, hit apply and close. So lots of different ways to manipulate the 3D models, whether it's dynamically by using the drag handles or using the actual icon functions themselves. Now if we come down to the modeling tab, we can see that we've got a single level, and that's fine, and you can see two components within that level: barrel top number 1, which is currently selected, and the wine bottle number 1, which if I click on that becomes selected there. If I click in the background, they both become deselected. Now at this stage it's probably worth me adjusting the height of the model, so I'm going to take the barrel top model there. I'm going to come up and click on the icon here, the wrench, in order to change this model's properties. Now here I could change its name or its combine mode if I want. At the moment it's set to merge, which is exactly what I want it to do. I want it to blend together with all the other components I'm going to bring in here. But what I would like to do is reduce its height down a bit to 0.25 of an inch, and I'm going to hit the space bar to accept that. So it's just back the height off a little. The height will naturally increase as I scale an object and increase its size, so that's just worth remembering there. Now at this point in time, if we just double click in the background and then double click the bottle, I can see that some of that is kind of sitting below the surface of my barrel. It's blending in, it's kind of sitting down within it. What I may want to do here is adjust its height and also its base height in order to raise it up a bit so that it sits above the kind of planks. So here, if I hover the cursor over, at the very bottom of the screen there, you can see it shows me the X, Y, Z position of the cursor, and the Z is telling me the rough height of the model under the arrow. So I can see it's about 0.1, 0.12 of an inch. So if I come up and put in a base height here of 0.1 and hit the space bar, you can see I've just raised that up now so that it's clearly sticking through the background of the barrel. And I may also want to just back off the height a little just to make it slightly less prominent. So it's always worth reducing the height as much as you can to minimize the amount of material you're going to need to use. So with the bottle selected, I've set the shape height to be 0.25 and the base height to be 0.1, and we'll just go back to looking down the Z-axis there in the 3D view and hit close on the component properties. Let's come back down to the clip art tab. And next I want to bring in a wine glass here. This time I'm going to click and just drag this into the 2D view to position it where I want it to be. Now you can see the size of that compared to the bottle is a little bit large. I'm just going to maximise the 3D view for a moment here. And so what I want to do is just change the sizes here. I think I'll leave the glass the size it is, but I'll scale up the bottle. But I would also like to rotate this around a little bit. So I'm going to come over the hard blue node in the corner, click and just drag that in order to just tilt that a little bit to the left there. Then we'll come over the middle and just click and drag that up a bit, so you can see we're just working in the 3D view here to adjust these positions. When I let go, then the software will update the 3D view for me. Now if I want to change the bottle, I could either come to the modeling tab and select it from the component tree here, or I could have double clicked it in the 3D view. Now I can go over the corner and hold shift down and just drag in order to increase the height of that a little bit there. So just going to scale it up a little bit more. Again, if I want to double click on the glass here, may just want to click on that again to go into transform mode, and maybe this time I'll hold shift down and just shrink that down a little bit, and then just click over the middle in order to move that up. So just creating a little bit of space around the glass and the bottle there to make sure that the tool should be able to fit in and machine those. Now you'll notice that we've lost some of the detail in the glass here. If I just click in the background, you can see it's kind of blending in, and so again we may need to alter the height of this in order to make sure that it's prominent above the wood grain area. So if we select the wine glass, come click on the properties here, I'm going to provide a base height of 0.1 again. Once more I'm going to reduce the shape height down to 0.25 to keep that in line. I'm going to just double click on the bottle here, and you can see when we scaled that up we've increased the height and the base height proportionately. So again I'm just going to type in 0.25 and hit space, and 0.1 and hit space there. So we're just making sure we're minimizing the heights but still creating the appearance of the bottle appearing to sit in front of the barrel. Let's just close that now, click in the background to deselect, and we'll come back up to view and tile windows horizontal so we can see the 2D and 3D view. Now notice in the 2D view here we can't see the grayscale for the bottle, and this is just to do with the order that we loaded the components in. The grayscale order has no effect on what you see in the 3D view. That's determined purely by the order of the objects in the component tree, the combine mode, and whatever height we have associated with them. If I did want to be able to see the grayscale in front of the barrel here, purely for selection purposes, then what I can do is click on the grayscale for the barrel, right mouse click, and tell the software to move it to the back. So that just reorders how I can see the grayscales in the 2D view there. Again, just to reiterate, very important that the order of the grayscale has no effect on my composite model in 3D. So I like the way the sizes of the objects look now. What I want to do is create a mirrored image of the glass on the other side of the bottle. So if we select the glass from the component tree or from the 2D or 3D views, we'll come to the drawing tab, click on the icon here to mirror selected objects. I'm going to choose the option here to flip about job center. I'm going to make sure that create a mirrored copy is also checked, and then I'm going to click on the button to flip horizontal. That's just going to take my selected object, an exact copy of it, and flip it about the middle of my part so that I get a nice symmetrical layout there. So I mentioned before that we could have just machined the bottle on its own, or indeed any of these other models that we've been importing individually. But again, as we've gone along here, we've created a new layout, and if we wanted to, we could take what we've got on the screen here and machine that in order to create the object on our CNC. We're going to continue to iterate further with our design though. What I'd like to do next is import a big sort of panel that we're going to be able to put some text on. So I'll come back down to the clip art tab. I'm going to double click on engraving plaque number 1 here. You can see that's going to import that there, show me the grayscale in the 2D view. I can click on that and just drag it downwards if I want, and I'm holding the shift key down to keep that vertically in line, and then still holding shift I'm going to come over the corner here and just increase the size of this. Now it may be that I want to distort it slightly, so I could either use the side here in order to squash this down, again holding the shift key down, or it may be I want to come in and click on the icon here on the drawing tab to set selected object size, want to unlink XY, and we can type in specific values for this. So I'm going to make its width 18 inches and its height 5 and hit apply and close. Now I'm going to come over and click on the icon here to align selected objects. I'm going to select our sign panel, and holding shift I'm going to select the barrel so that both of those are selected. It's important that the barrel is selected last though. Then click on the icon here to align the bottom inside edge so that the bottom of the sign blank is now aligned with the bottom of the barrel. Just go ahead and hit close and just click in the background to deselect both of those. Now we can see in the 3D view here that the bottle and the glasses are now kind of sitting behind this sign panel. I would like them to actually sit in front of it and also to move up a little bit in the design. So let's come up and select the bottle here and click on it again to go into the transform mode, and holding shift down I'm going to click in the middle and just drag this up, and the shift will keep it aligned to the center as I mentioned before. And I'm just going to set that so that the top of the bottle is sticking out slightly above the top of the barrel. I'm going to select this glass on the right and hit delete on the keyboard to get rid of that, and then we'll just double click on the glass here in the 3D view, click on it again to go into transform mode, and again I'm going to hold shift down and we'll just move that up a little bit there, maybe even click and move that over across a little bit as well, slightly closer towards the bottle. Now we've got these in the right kind of XY location, we need to adjust the Z values in order to get them to stick up above the top edge of the barrel here, and also to make sure they stick out above the sign panel itself. So if we come over to the modelling tab so that we can access the component tree, and with the glass selected there, what I'm going to do is come up and click on the icon to change the properties. I'm going to choose the option here to tilt this upwards, so I'm going to check the box for tilt. I'm going to hit the set button, and in the 2D view I'm going to click at the top of the glass and roughly where the bottom of the glass is, and we'll click on the arrow to go down and use the slider here to put in a value of about 3 degrees. And I can see that's not looking too bad. If we zoom into the 3D view, it's starting to be more prominent. What we may want to do is just raise that up a little bit further to get it to come through completely. So maybe we'll try a base height of 0.13 and hit space. And now I can see that's just nicely cleared that edge, and it's given me the illusion of the glass being in front of the other objects in the design. Now we want to do the same with the barrel here. Now, as well as the component properties from the component tree as we've used here, if we close that, what I can also do is if I double click the object, click it again in the 3D view to go into the transform mode, and come down on this large blue dot at the bottom and left click on that, then I get this component properties menu here, which is available to me anytime in the 3D view itself. So here what I might want to do is set the base height to be 0.15, so we just raise that up a little bit at the top. Then I can click on tilt and hit the set button, and because I've activated this from the 3D view, I can click in the 3D view to give myself the points where I'm going to tilt from and to, and again with just the drop down there we can come in, we'll give that an angle of 3 degrees, maybe a little bit more, we'll go up to around 3.5, and that looks good to me visually. If we close that, just maximise the 3D view there and spin that around, you can see how that looks. Now you'll notice there I've just accidentally clicked to move that because it was still in transform mode. That's okay, we can just hit edit and go to undo move there. I could also have hit Control Z on the keyboard, but you do need to be careful with that. If you're in the transform mode there and you click on an object in the 3D view, it will potentially move. To go out of the transform mode, you can just double click in the background there, or click in the background of the component tree. So at this stage we've got our glass and our bottle sitting prominently above the barrel and above our sign blank there. So again we could take our glass and we could mirror that over. If we go to the drawing tab, click on the icon to mirror the selected objects, flip about job center, create a mirrored copy, and click on the button to flip horizontal. Now again, we're at a stage where we've created a design that we could go ahead and machine if we wanted. We could add some text into there in order to cut this. Or we can add even a little bit more embellishment to this by bringing in another of the pieces of clip art that we got with this project. If we come down to the clip art tab here, I may want to grab the grapes and just click and drag those into the 3D view there. And with them in the transform mode, I'm just going to click and drag that up and get it so that it just sort of overlaps with the edge of the model. I'm not going to change the size of that. I do want it to sit in behind our sign blank, so I'm happy with the way that looks. Now I actually want to create a copy of that and kind of mirrored over here. So what I want to do is just click and hold the control key down and click and just drag that in order to create a copy. So now I've got a second set of the grapes, and now to mirror that I'm going to click on the shortcut key to do that. So I want to mirror it horizontally, so I'm just going to hit H and you can see that's mirrored that around. Now still in the 3D view, I'm going to click to just reduce the size of this a little bit in the bottom corner and click on the hard blue node in the corner there in order to just drag that and rotate it around and just position it there so that it's overlapping into the edge. I don't want to see it on the inside of the barrel, so I'm just going to drag that away there to make sure that I can't see that happening. We'll just move that down a little bit there as well. Once I'm happy with the position of that, then the last bit of clip art I want to bring in here is the leaf. So again, I'm just going to click and drag that, and I can drag that into the 2D or the 3D view. Again, we'll just click and drag this up here. I'm going to come over the corner, shrink it down, and just get that positioned where I want it to be in the middle of the two sets of grapes. Now I want that to sit prominently above those, so I'm going to come over to the modeling tab, click on the icon here to change the properties. We'll come in and change the shape height to be 0.3. We'll put in a base height of 0.1 and just see what that does for us. Maybe we need to go a little bit more there. We'll go 0.13. And now I'm going to tilt that. So I'm going to click on the set button, and because I've activated the component properties from the component tree, I do need to put these values into the 2D view. So I'm going to go into the 2D view, I'm going to hit F on the keyboard to fit this and just click there and click there in order to allow me to tilt that up. Now I do need to be able to see the 3D view, so I'm going to tile the windows horizontally again, and now I can come in and use this in order to add some tilt into there, and we'll go up about 3 degrees. So all I want is to be able to see that coming up and tilting over the edge of the sign. If we just close that, click in the background to deselect, to maximise the 3D view and just take a closer look and see if we're happy with the way everything's positioned and how it's oriented so that we see some objects sitting in front of the others. And you can just play around with these in order to position them exactly where you want them to be, rotate them around, move them and adjust their heights until you're happy with the way it looks. If we go back up to view and tile the windows horizontally again, what I want to do at this stage is just click and box select the two bunches of grapes and the leaf that we just brought in there, and again we'll come to the drawing tab, click on the icon to mirror the selected objects, and once more with flip about job center and create a mirrored copy checked, we'll click on the icon to flip horizontal. If we close that now, we can see at this point we're pretty close to a finished layout. The last thing I want to do is add in some text that we're going to V-carve into our sign. I'm going to click on the icon here to draw text, and we'll come down to the font list and we'll hit L on the keyboard. What I'm looking for is a font called Lucida Bright. So if you don't have this font on your PC, you can just find something similar or one that you like. I'm going to type in the text Vintages, and I make this bold, and I'm going to set the text height to be 2 inches and hit apply and close. I'm just going to click on this now, and in the transform mode, holding the shift key down on the keyboard, I'm going to drag it down so that it sits below the bottom of our wine glass there. Now if I want to see the edges of these grayscales, again I can select it, right mouse click and move to front, select that, right mouse click and move to front. So I can see exactly where those edges are in the 2D view to help me position my text. Now the objects at the top here, some of them are sitting behind the sign blank, so I may want to take this, right mouse click and move to back, and the same with this one here. Again, this is not affecting the 3D model at all, but it is adjusting the 2D view to make it a little bit easier to see my text placement. Now if we just maximize the 2D view and hit F on the keyboard to fit, I'm going to select my text here. I'm going to come over and click on the icon to edit text spacing and curve, and I'm just going to close the spacing between the T and A and the A and G so that they overlap a little more because of the tilt of the A. If you go too far, you can hold shift down in order to space them out again. And I am going to space out the E and the S, the G and the E, the N and the T, the I and the N, and the V and the I. So I'm just holding shift down and clicking in between the spaces between the letters to space them out, or not holding shift down if I want them to be closer together. Once we're finished with the edit text spacing and curve tool, I'm going to click back on selection mode. I'm going to select the text and click on the icon here to convert the object to curves. So now that's converted it from being text entities into standard vectors. What I want to do is just click to deselect, select just the V, click on it again, and I'm just going to click and increase the size of this, not holding the shift key down, up so that it's a little bit lower than the edge of the leaf there. And then I'm just going to use the arrow key in order to jog that over so that I'm happy with its positioning. If I want to make this a precise size, I could come in, click on the set selected object size and click on the bottom right there, and you can see the height of that is around 3 inches, so that's okay. What I'm going to do now is click on the S, click on the bottom left to scale that up from. I'm going to click on the box to link XY, and we'll set that to be a height of 3 and hit apply and close. And so I'm pretty happy with the way that looks there. Again, if you want to adjust that, you can just keep manipulating the position, space and size of these different letters, making sure that they don't overlap with the 3D leaf that we've got here, because when we V-carve this, I want to make sure that's not going to be machined away. Let's just come back up to View and tile the windows horizontal again, and here we're ready now to go ahead and start machining this. And that will be dealt with in a separate tutorial. What I'm going to do here is save a copy of this file so that we have it in the project folder. So we'll click on the file drop down, go to Save As, and we'll call this CNC Mini Project _model so that we have a copy of that there. And we've shown you a few different iterations of how we could use the models in this particular video. But as we've mentioned before, there's really an infinite number of variations that you could choose to work with here. You could have your customer direct you as to how they wanted the model to be changed, or you could make the decisions yourselves based on aesthetic reasons, or even reasons to do with what material you had available, what tooling you had, and that kind of thing. So that concludes this video looking at the project from the Design and Make website.